Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, Friday announcement. Inshallah, as usual, we kindly remind all the brothers and sisters to continue to be vigilant on the COVID-19. Please take your vaccine and come to the masjid with your mask and prayer rugs, inshallah. ICNA Relief is accepting donations for the Afghan refugees, so providing supplies to them. So please contact the website and see how you can help. ICC College Youth Qiyam is tonight with Mufti Wasim. It's after Isha prayer. Registration is required, so please go on the kiosk system. Al Bayan Friday school program starts today. It's going to be a virtual for Zoom for grade 3 to 8 and in person for grade 9 to 12. This is for both girls and boys for ICC. Inshallah, please check out this great program. It's going to start, and more information in the office, inshallah. ICC and AMWPA organize a free drive through flu shot this Saturday, on Saturday, October 9th. It's going to be Saturday, October 9th, from 2:15 to 4:15. This is for adults and children aged 9 or older. Sunday school, our Sunday school is going on strongly, but we need volunteers. So if you wish to give back to the community and volunteer for the Sunday school, please stop by the office and volunteer yourself, inshallah. Next, we have dua request. Sister Israt Jahan is seriously has a condition in the hospital. Please make dua for her shifa. The uncle of brother Zafar Salim is sick with COVID in Pakistan. Brother Jean Zeller is also sick in ICU with COVID. Please make dua and shifa for both of them. Brother Stefan Ahmed Hines is having surgery today to move a brain tumor. Please make dua for his successful surgery. Brother Arif Haq is having surgery today in Canada. Please make dua for his shifa. Professor Saeed Gayes Uddin passed away in Bangladesh. Please make dua for his maghfirah. Brother Asa Ali passed away in Pakistan. Brother Asa Ali is the cousin of our own dear brother Zahid Zafar. Please make dua for him and the family, inshallah. Lastly, Sister Abtisam Hadifa is having cancer treatment. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
السلام عليكم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وعزيزنا وكريمنا ورحيمنا ونبينا وسندنا محمد رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحابه وأجماعه وأزواجه وأنصاره وعلينا معهم أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى عز وجل في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الدين بدأ غريبا سيعود كما بدأ فطوبى للغرباء وهم الذين يصلحون ما أفسد الناس من بعدي من سنتي أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Honorable ulama, respected elders, beloved brothers and sisters and youngsters, it's been a rough few weeks. It's been a definitely interesting and mind-boggling few weeks that we have been witnessing over the last month. And I think that it warrants us to reflect upon the last 2 decades and the last 20 years and walk out today with some realization, with the perspective of what the next 20 years should look like. I was born in Dallas, Texas. I grew up overseas. I was very young when I came back to America. I did kindergarten in Kabul, in Dallas. I lived in different places. I lived in New Jersey. My father worked at Newark Airport, so being in that environment in the Northeast, and as children what we experienced, and seeing the world view from where we were at that age, was definitely something that shaped my generation and the generations to come after. The first and foremost thing is that I remember as a child, I was very young, and I remember one time going and doing wudu at a masjid in Jamaica, New York. And there was an elder Tablighi brother that was there. We were on Jamaat at the masjid in Jamaica. And I remember that after, when the time came for him to do wudu, he took off his turban, his imama, and he put it in my hand and he said, "Can you hold this for me while I do my wudu?" I was a little kid. I said, "Sure." He did his wudu. After he was done with his wudu, he looked at me and he said to me, "This imama and turban is yours." I was a small kid. I saw him wear it, and that began from the days that I started wearing an imama, a turban, a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Move ahead few years, and now we are sitting shocked. Remember, this is 20 years ago, so there's no Facebook, there's no Twitter, there's no YouTube, there's no TikTok, there is no voice. And all we saw on TV and at every moment was that a bad Muslim looks like this. And the worst type of Muslim looks like this. So any level of following the Sunnah automatically began diminishing. Muslims at one time that would wear hijab began taking their hijab off out of fear for their life. I remember very clearly people getting lit up at gas stations, in the Northeast at least. I remember my family member being abused on streets and stones being thrown at them. I remember the economic struggle that ensued from there. I remember going inside my school and being referred to as Bin Laden and Taliban every time I walked through the corridors. I remember the jokes of bombs, and I remember the jokes of extremists, and I remember the jokes of terrorism that shaped my childhood in school, and I'm sure many kids in our public schools today experience the same. I went from a kid that prayed Salah, and I went from a kid who read Quran, and I went from a kid who read books even on the day of Eid, and I went from a kid who proudly wore his hat and his Islamic identity, and a proud Muslim. But the climate changed me from Muhammad to Mo. And I no longer wanted to be called a Muslim. When someone mistook me for a Latino, for a different race, it gave me a sense of purpose. I wanted to shy away from my ancestral roots from Afghanistan. I wanted to ignore my mother's roots from Pakistan. And I wanted to forget my father's connection to Hyderabad in India. And I wanted to be just like everyone else, and I wanted to distance myself from this. And I remember that it became conflicting. Do I follow this religion? And if this is the image, then this is not what I want to be. And if these are oppressors and these are things, then this is not what I desire. And it was a very important aspect for me to go and learn my own deen, because now I didn't want anyone to explain it to me. Neither Fox, neither CNN, neither this organization or that group. I needed to hear the deen for myself, and I needed to see it myself with my own eyes. So I began this journey and I began to learn the deen. But again, in my climate as I'm going up, it wasn't hip, it wasn't cool to go learn the deen. It's not like, oh, where are you going? Oh, you're going to Qalam. Oh, you're going to this. Oh, okay, yeah, everyone's doing it. It's the hype. Everyone's going to the masjid. No, I was the only one. In the whole friend group, no one came to the masjid. There was no such thing as a youth halaqa. There was no such thing as a basketball court. Today, decades later, you'll find maybe a court or two in the tri-state area in the major masajid. Otherwise, it's a concept that you see in the south. You don't see it in the north. And I grew up seeing my friends struggle with their Islamic identity. From breaking away from their prayers, going to the masjids for Jummah, for the connection of their deen, out of fear of being labeled. And I think 20 years later, the conversation and the direction of what we echo has drastically changed. Because now we just don't have the news telling us what's going on, but we each have our own voices. إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. Allah says, when news comes, weigh and measure the news. Many of the elders that are sitting here over the last 20 years, how many times did we hear the war is over? It's come to an end. We're exiting now. Guantanamo is about to be shut. But the dhulm continues and the oppression continues. But it's not my fault or my problem because you know what? I'm not in that situation. Decades people are held incarcerated, whether it's Dr. Afia over here or it's another person over there. The situation is the same. The checks and balances became eliminated because there was only one voice. But now the situation is different. And we owe a huge part to the black Muslim community. Wallahi, had it not been, and Allah knows best, but had it not been for the civil struggles and the religious struggles and the identity struggles of our black Muslim brothers and sisters in this country, and had they not fought, I highly doubt that you and I have the audacity or the guts to stand up for our own deen or faith. Had it not been paved by that generation, and had blood not been spilled, and had freedom not been infringed, and had the cause not been fought for civil liberty and integrity and decency, then perhaps you and I today would not be sitting in a masjid and this lecture and discussion would not be happening. If the fight for equality and freedom had not been done decades earlier and hundreds of years ago, if it had not been done, if the struggle wasn't there, then you and I would not be enjoying what we are enjoying today. But keeping all of that stuff in mind, the script has changed. Today, now everyone has the camera in their hand. Abuses and torture and torment. And when people step out of line, there is a system where people are able to voice their own opinion. As kids, we were told, if you identified like this, you look like this, you're the terrorist. You're the worst Muslim. But wait, I read that my prophet had a beard, and I read my prophet had a turban, and I read that my mother Aisha wore a hijab, and I read that my mother Safiya covered her face, and they wore abaya, and you're telling me this is the worst Muslim because a picture is 1,000 words. I remember being in Tampa, and there was a young boy, not Muslim. His friend was Muslim. We knew each other. He invited me to his house, and this kid is, mashallah, very well-off youngster. His father had a bunch of autographs from old celebrities, and they had a very nice place. He called me to his home. And I remember the first questions would always be, when they would look at me, and they would say, that dude, you know, they're intrigued by Islam, but at the same time, they're like, you look a little different. So I asked the person, I said, out of all the Muslims you've seen, I'm probably the most extreme one you've seen. And he said, yeah. I said, do you feel threatened by me? He said, no. I said, there's 1.7 billion more of us. I said, let me educate you about Islam today, because I have studied in depth for 7 years the Islamic law in its different madhabs, not just the 4 madhabs, in all the madhabs, majority of the madhabs. At the same time, we learned different aspects of Islamic law, including the etiquettes of war. So let's go down them for a few seconds, and then you can measure, is this the same image we know about Muslims that we hear? First and foremost, the Prophet ﷺ forbids. The Prophet ﷺ says that the person who breaks the promise or an oath that they had established, Man qatala mu'ahidan bighayri haqqin lam yarih ra'ihat al-jannah. The Prophet ﷺ says, if you have a treaty, we had UN, we had the Geneva Convention, the countries went in to a bilateral agreement amongst all the countries of respect of boundaries and respect of borders, and there is a level of trust between the different countries that exist, that one will not invade another country, and this was done decades ago. And the Prophet ﷺ says, Man qatala mu'ahidan, the person who takes the life of someone that is protected and you have a treaty with them, lam yarih ra'ihat al-jannah, that person will not experience the fragrance of Jannah. وَإِنَّ مَصِيرَتَهَا, and the fragrance of Jannah can be experienced at a distance of 500 years away from Jannah. That person who commits this type of act and does this abuse, any simple student of knowledge knows this, that if you were to kill an innocent person, it's like you have killed mankind. And if you break a treaty and you do an action of such, then you will be barred from Jannah. Every student of knowledge knows this. There's another narration that in Sahih Muslim, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that do not لا يعذب بالنار لا يعذب بالنار إلا رب النار لا تعذب بعذاب الله. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that no person is permitted to punish or wage a war or attack someone with the mechanism that Allah uses to punish, i.e. fire. And the Prophet ﷺ forbade the usage of fire in battle. And if every bomb and every combustion device is not fire, then what else is it? From our laws of ethics, we are not allowed to harm trees. We are not allowed to harm women, children, churches, religious places. We are not allowed to burn stock. We are not allowed to harm property, neither owned property or natural property by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a whole system that is placed, and to just go and surprise and do an act of violence or to do an explosion somewhere is completely forbidden from Islam. This was never the image of Islam. So when someone uses this and then they put the synonymous picture of someone who resembles like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they say the outer appearance is this and the inner appearance is this, we need to be able to take a step back and say, no, no, no. You cannot tie in the acts of wrong to people who resemble or who look outwardly like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because this psychological warfare where we feel that we are less of an individual. In order for me to be more in society, I have to be more different. I have to be more like everyone else. And which is a pity, because we live in a country which embraces an incredible amount of differences. We have so much freedom. What will we say on the day of judgment when we stand before Allah? And Allah says, I gave you a country where you could say what you wanted to say. You could dress the way you wanted to dress. And you had opportunity of earning what you wanted to earn. You had all the avenues. But what did you do with the avenues that Allah had given you? And it reminds me of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where the Prophet describes our scenario. The Prophet ﷺ says that a time comes, يُوشِكُ أَن تُدَاعِ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأُمَمِ, that a time will come that the different nations will fall upon you and you will be attacked. كَمَا تُدَاعِ الْأَكَلَةُ إِلَى قِسْعَتِهَا, just the way a person eats from a dish, you'll be picked off. قَالَ قَائِلٌ أَنَحْنُ قَلِيلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. O my Nabi of Allah, is it because of the fact that we're going to be few in numbers that day, that everyone is after us? The Prophet of Allah says, no. بَلْ أَنْتُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ كَثِيرٌ. But that day, you will be plentiful. There will be so many of you. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ غُثَاءٌ كَغُثَاءِ السَّيْلِ وَلَيَنْزِعَنَّ اللَّهُ مِنْ صُدُورِ عَدُوِّكُمْ الْمُهَابَ مِنْكُمْ. That you will be like the foam of the ocean. You'll be useless. There will be so many of you, but you'll be completely useless. And Allah will remove the haiba and the respect and honor people have for you. Allah will remove it from their heart. And Allah will put into your hearts wahan. And the Sahaba said, وَمَا الْوَهْنُ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. O my Nabi of Allah, what is this wahan? And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam gives the reason why we will go into a pitfall. And he said, حُبُّ الدُّنْيَا وَكَرَاهِيَةُ الْمَوْتِ. He said, you would have loved the dunya and you would dislike meeting Allah. So Allah will take the respect and honor away from you. We were a nation that sat at the seat of Spain and Portugal and Morocco and Egypt and Iran and Turkey and Uzbekistan and China and India and Pakistan, Afghanistan, Somalia. The Muslim empire was remarkable. The Muslim empire was remarkable. सीने के दाग जल उठे, दिल के फपोले जल उठे सीने के दाग से, इस घर को आग लगी इस घर के चिराग से. The poet says our entire structure of Islam crumbled down because of a candle from within our own home. We are the cause of our own destruction. We lost our way, we lost our purpose. We came here and we thought our purpose was the dunya. And we talk about the Islamophobia the others have against us. But seldom do we talk about the Islamophobia we project upon ourselves. When I was talking about the greatest cost of the last 2 decades from a spiritual perspective, it was the cost of the Muslim identity. The Prophet ﷺ said, Inna ad-deena bada'a ghariba. This religion began as something strange. Sayaudu kama bada. One day it will go back as being something strange. Now I'll finish this hadith off in 1 second. in a few seconds. I'm talking about our own Islamophobia. What does our own Islamophobia mean? How many mothers here and fathers here discourage their children from coming to the masjid? How many of them discourage them from their ibadah and their worship? How many mothers and fathers tell their children, the beard looks bad on you, take the hijab off, the hijab looks bad. I have kids who come to our lectures who say, Mufti, we sneak out to come because our parents don't allow us. This is the Islamophobia of our own generation. Okay, my daughter is getting married. I want a man, I want a boy, has essa, wessa, double pesa, is like this and like that, has a house and a car and everything, subhanAllah. Brother, you came to meet your wife when you had nothing on your back. And you want your son-in-law to have more than you did. We ask about the deen, 2, 3 salahs is fine. This is our internal Islamophobia. I don't want too good of a Muslim. Girl, hijab? No, we don't want to. How many sisters come and say that we take our hijab off when the time of marriage comes because the boys don't want a hijabi girl. They don't want a wife who wear an abaya outside. How many sisters with niqab no longer wear it because it becomes a struggle for them? This is our internal Islamophobia. How many Muslim businesses do we see and we don't support? And we'll go to someone else to support them because of our own arrogance and our own feeling that no, we're not going to go there, we're not going to go support them. We want to have a posh experience. And that's our internal Islamophobia. And how many people go and question when they see a Muslim succeed? He's like that, she's like that. That's our own internal Islamophobia. And when a Muslim falls from grace, we're the first ones to go talk about them. That's our own Islamophobia. When it comes to talking about aspects of the deen, and we say, the deen is not important. The moon is not important. The meat is not important. These are just small issues. We have bigger problems. That's our own internal Islamophobia. We have said that something Allah has made haram is not important. This is our own internal Islamophobia. The time of salah comes, my kid, you don't need to pray salah. Make sure you focus on your school. Ignore your salah. Pray them all later on. That's our internal Islamophobia. And until we are not proud of our own deen, no one else will respect the deen that is inside us. And that brings me back to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inna deena bada'a ghariba. This deen began as something strange. Because remember, when the Prophet is saying this, the deen has become popular. And everyone is following the deen. Inna deena bada'a ghariba. This deen has began as something strange. Sayaudu kama bada. A time will come when there will be a lot of Muslims, but to practice Islam, you'll be considered weird. And the Prophet says, فَطُوبَى لِلْغُرَبَى. I give glad tidings to the weird ones. فَطُوبَى لِلْغُرَبَى. Who are these weird people? هم الذين يصلحون ما أفسد الناس من بعدي من سنتي. Nabi alayhi salam describes them. Who are these people that I give glad tidings of Jannah to? They are those that after the ummah has corrupted my sunnah, they go back and they fix the sunnah. They're the ones who bring the sunnah back. They're the ones who hold the sunnah. And that is why the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Man ahya sunnati inda fasadi ummati falahu ajru mi'ati shahidin. That person who revives one sunnah of mine at the time of fitna, normalizes one sunnah of mine, just one, you will get the reward of 100 martyrs while you are still alive. And the reward of one martyr is before their blood drops to the ground, Allah forgives all of their sins. Just one sunnah. Can we sacrifice our ego? Can we go home today, do tawbah and ask ourselves, how much do we follow the Prophet externally, internally? And I'm not just taking this, calling out the elder generation. In my last minute, I want to also reflect on the younger generation as well. Our own internal Islamophobia is what? When we like someone, we are looking for the qualities of shaitan in her or him, not the qualities of Rahman. They have to be a baddie, they have to be like this, and they have to dress like that, and dance like that, and TikTok like that. And this is the type of person that I want. The sifat of shayateen that are in them, that's what I want inside them. Because the sifat of Rahman inside, the righteous one, the good one, no one's attracted to her or him. They're too good. And that's our eternal Islamophobia. When we are disregarding what Allah and His Messenger sets as a standard, and we're looking elsewhere, and we're looking for izzah and honor and happiness, Allah says, you won't get it. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ جَمِيعًا. For Allah is complete honor. And Allah has Darus Salam, Allah has peace. And as long as you run away from Allah, peace will not be yours. And you can run as far as you want from Allah. You are still running in His kingdom. But let me tell you something. No matter how far you are and how far away you ran away from Allah, all it takes is for you to turn around and you become Allah's. You don't even need to travel the journey back. You just need to, at this moment, at this second, reflect on your heart, reflect on your life, and ask yourselves a question that 2 decades from now, what will your children or their children be experiencing? What iman will they have, and what have you left for them to look at as an ideal Muslim? What have we left for them? Reflect on it, do tawbah. Every one of us should do tawbah at this moment. That, Ya Allah, I seek forgiveness from all of my sins. All the moments I have ran away from you, Ya Allah, I seek forgiveness, change my heart, and make Iman beloved to me. This is a dua that we make. Allahumma habib ilayna al-Iman. Oh my Allah, make faith and Iman beloved in my heart. Wa zayyinhu fi qulubina. And beautify it, make it attractive in our heart. Wa karrih ilayna al-kufra wal-fusuqa wal-isyan. And let us despise and hate sin. Today we are unable to hate the sin. We may not commit the sin of zina, but we see it in a video or a movie show, and all of a sudden we love the act. We may not drink, but we love the act. We may not gamble in the casinos, but today we are gambling on the drafts and the picks, and we are sitting together with the fantasy football and the different sports they play, and they're gambling over there. My dear brother and sister, the sin is haram, whether you do it in the midst of a casino or you do it in your living room. It is something that angers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we want to defeat Islamophobia outside, we must defeat the battle of Islamophobia inside. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله علي الأجل الواحد الفرد القديم الأول فأنت مليك الناس ربا فاقبل ثم الصلاة على النبي الأفضل فإني أولا أبدأ بأمر قد بدأ الله تعالى بنفسه ثم ثنى ملائكته المقربين وثلثنا به قال بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد بعدد من صلى وصام وصل على محمد بعدد من قعد وقام وصل على جميع أصحاب رضوان الله تعالى عليهم أجمعين اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم احفظ دماء المسلمين في كل مكان اللهم احفظ عزة المسلمين في كل مكان اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون أقم الصلاة
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
استووا واعتدلوا الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا لك الحمد كثيرا الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر بسم الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين هل أتاك حديث الغاشية وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية تسقى من عين آنية ليس لهم طعام إلا من ضريع لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع وجوه يومئذ ناعمة لسعيها راضية في جنة عالية لا تسمع فيها لاغية فيها عين جارية فيها سرر مرفوعة وأكواب موضوعة ونمارق مصفوفة وزرابي مبثوثة أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا لك الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.